Hey you guys, it's Miss B again. I decided to record a second video. Liddy's over here again, ready for another story, and I've got my cup of coffee, my comfy clothes on, so we're ready to dig into another story. Today, I want to read a story called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. And some of you might remember, I think we may have read this a really long time ago. Today I decided to read this because I wanted to dig in a little bit and talk about comparing and contrasting. So comparing means when you are thinking about things that are alike, and contrasting means when you're thinking about things that are different. So I might stop a little bit more than I did in my first read aloud video so that you can think about some questions that I'm going to ask you. So the first thing I want to ask you is, turn and tell someone near you what the real story, The Three Little Pigs, is about. If you don't have anybody near you, just kind of think about it in your brain or say it out loud. I'm going to give you a couple seconds. What is the story of the Three Little Pigs? So you probably said something along the lines of, there are three pigs that are brothers and they go out in the world and they each make their own house, and the wolf comes along and he huffs and he puffs and he blows his house down. So I want you to be thinking about that and that story as I read you the true story of the Three Little Pigs. There are a lot of things that are the same in this story, but there's also a lot of things that are different. So it's your job to stop and think about those things as I read, okay? The true story of the Three Little Pigs. And before I get started, we're gonna do something in my classroom we call a, sorry, it just slipped my mind. Haven't been, at school for a long time, apparently, a sneak peek. So we're gonna take a sneak peek, and that means we kind of just do a picture walk and we see what exactly could happen in this story. And as I'm doing this sneak peek, I want you to be looking at the pictures and asking yourself, what could happen? What might happen next? So right now I want you to tell somebody near you, or again, yourself, what you think is going to happen in this story. Some things that I noticed is that they seem like they have the same main characters, those three little pigs and the wolf. And I'm also wondering what's going to happen at the end, because it does look like he might have ended up in jail. All right, so let's get started. The true story of the Three Little Pigs, as told by John Ciesica and illustrated by Lane Smith. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do, but I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story, because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. So who do you think is telling this story? If you said the wolf, then you are right. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can just call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault that wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. And that's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is just about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So what do you think he's going to do if he ran out of sugar? So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. No, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? Okay, so he's saying he has a cold and he sneezes a lot and there's a house built of straw. I bet you can imagine what's going to happen next. So of course, the minute I knock on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called out, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. And that's when my nose started to itch. Oh, I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed a great sneeze. Achoo! And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. Right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He'd been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw. So I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little bit better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So I went to the next neighbor's house. That neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. Okay, so right now, I want you to turn and tell somebody near you or yourself what you think is going to happen next. He's approaching the next pig's house. It's made of sticks. What do you think could happen? I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And he yelled back, go away, Wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. Well, I just grabbed the doorknob when, what do you think happened? I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed another great sneeze. Achoo! And you're not gonna believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. And when the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. So think about the pattern in the story so far. The other three little pigs also had a pattern, right? This one has a pattern too. It's just a little bit of a different pattern than the original story. Now, you know, food will spoil if you just leave it out there in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I mean, I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little bit better. And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and the second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house of bricks. Okay, so I'm going to stop again and I want you to tell someone near you or yourself what you think is going to happen this time. He's approaching the third pig's house. It's made of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called out, Mr. Pig, are you in? And you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, Wolf, and don't bother me again. I mean, talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar and he wouldn't give me one little cup for my dear, sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home, maybe make a nice birthday card instead of the cake, when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. Achoo! And then the third little pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pin. I want you to think about how that probably made the wolf feel, the emotions he felt. And the pig is yelling about his granny. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. And when the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down this pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and just making a real big scene. The rest, as they say, is history. And the news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound so exciting. So, you know, they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. That's a real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar? the end. So I want to talk about a couple things, and I'm going to give you time, like I have been, to talk to somebody at the house near you or just with yourself. So I want you to think about things that were the same in The Three Little Pigs and this version, the true story of The Three Little Pigs. So some things that I noticed that were the same, had the same characters, Three Little Pigs and the wolf. It was the same sort of thing where the Three Little Pigs built their house out of different materials, and they were the same materials. I also noticed that the wolf went to all three houses. The first two pigs were dead. Thumbs up if you kind of said something similar to that. Awesome. Okay, so now let's talk about things that were different in the story. Think about the first Three Little Pigs and this version. I'll give you some time to think. What was different? Okay, so I noticed some differences between what happened with the wolf. In the first version of the Three Little Pigs that we all know, he was guilty. That means he was the one who was like the big bad wolf, the mean wolf who was causing problems. In this version, the wolf is trying to tell everybody that he in fact was innocent and he was just trying to get a cup of sugar. That's different. The ending in the first Three Little Pigs is different. It depends on which version you read, but I know the version that I read to you guys a long time ago ended with the wolf falling down the chimney into a pot of stew that the pig ate. And in this version, the wolf ends up in jail. And there are a lot of other different things, like the way that the characters are presented. I think in this story, the wolf is kind of presented as silly and easygoing and funny, and that's not how it is in the other story. So that's all I have for now. And I hope that you guys enjoyed that and you talked through it with your families and got your brains kind of going a little bit. I miss you guys, and stay tuned for another read aloud soon. Bye.